Alright guys, wanted to kind of share the progress with what I had going on right now. And haven't got everything in, but I'm going to show you what I've got so far. Alright, so let's start off over here. These are brake proportioning valves. So this valve here, and we've got another one. It's going to be put in the car to where we can shut off the rear brakes. I believe this is a really good brand. I tend to not like to buy the cheap stuff, not with what we're doing. Can't risk failure of cheap products. But we move from that and we come over here. We're going to change the latch over because this is our old school window net latch, and the old seatbelt buckle works okay. It's just we had a problem in the last race where it didn't latch and it kept pulling off. So I'm going to go ahead and move to this one. Now the benefit of this is actually a hollow rod. So the weight of that versus the weight of this is a considerable difference. Like that might weigh 5 pounds and this might weigh 3 pounds. Anything to save weight is great. I'm going to go ahead and change the coupler on the intake. I've got brand new brake line here to go ahead and do that. Brake bias valve. I've got a brand new harmonic balancer. Since these are known to separate, I've got two that are original to the cars, and they're just really old, so I can't risk that failure. So we're going to go ahead and put a new harmonic balancer on it. Fuel tank foam. We're putting fuel tank foam in the tank to where when we get down to about 3 gallons of fuel left, I believe if we put this on both sides of the pickup, it'll help prevent and keep down on the fuel slosh to where we don't have so much of that breakup, because we have to run for 2 hours, and at about an hour and 45 to an hour and 49 minutes, depending on how many yellow flags, we start to get fuel slosh and the engine starts to miss, and we have to back off of our lap times. So hopefully with this thrown into the fuel tank, it'll help. Now I switched to a different battery. Notice how small this battery is. This is like a little bit bigger than an ATV battery, but it's got 1067 pulse cranking amps and somewhere around, I think, 450 regular cranking amps. But this aluminum battery box, so we've got a 15-pound battery with about a 1-pound box. We used to have this battery, we ran that on last Sunday. That's 47 pounds. I weighed it on the scale. And before that, we ran a Red Top Optima. Now, there used to be a big metal battery tray in here that was probably, 7 pounds of weight. I tried my best to cut it out, but it looks like shit, but it is what it is. Came over here, cut out all this. You can kind of see where I cut it, but all of this secondary metal was glued to that, and I got all that off. There's the glue left over. Haven't done it to that side, but what I did, all this used to be metal, and the metal used to come up, go all the way up to here, and then come across. So we took all that out. There used to be a channel right here. You can kind of see where I cut it. Cut all that out. That way, we're getting maximum amount of weight savings. So here's the big giant pile of metal. This is where it came out of the trunk, other stuff like that. Just any little bit that we can. We're going to put brand new brake calipers on the rear of the car because the old ones are 300,000 miles. Brand new rear hubs. The old ones have 300,000 miles on them. We're going to go to a different spring setup this race. I'm buying the Ibach Pro lowering kit for the car. If you know anything about champcar, the spring rule just got changed, so I can't run any spring that I want now. So I'm going to go to a lowering kit, and then I'm going to run spring rubbers into the car. Ran spring rubbers for a while here, seemed to do well, so now I'm going to double it up. Back over here to the battery. I'm glad I tested this. It kind of pissed me off, but this was the battery latch that they give me, and I put the battery in it, hooked the cable up, put it back in the box, carried it home, and then boom, this actually broke off. So right here, it's actually split. You can see it. It's split all the way across. So that's a good thing that failed while it was in the box. I wanted to go ahead and cut in the video right here and show you. I got the Bilstein struts right here for the front of the Acura. I like this. This is like the bottom mount hatch for the spring, and it's pretty dope. This was kind of what I was looking for. I kind of thought maybe if they made something like this in reverse, where if you flipped it upside down, you could actually run a spring the other way. And maybe that's how it's supposed to be used. I don't know. Let me check it out. So yeah, I flipped this spring perch the other way, which is the right way, and it nestles in a whole lot better into that spring. So what we have here basically is we have the Eibach Pro Kit lowering springs and front Bilstein struts. These are the rear Eibachs, and these are KYB Excel G gas struts for the rear. Now, the reason I went with these and not the red ones were because the red ones are adjustable. And now, as great as being adjustable is, racing in Champ Car, you are not allowed to have adjustable struts or any sort of adjustable suspension without getting a points ding. So our car is already worth so many points. We already get deducted so many laps. It really makes it tough for us to do anything suspension performance wise. So this year 2020 rules came out, and they allow OEM length and diameter top and bottom spring setups. So you can only run basically a lowering kit. You can't run just random 2.5 or 2 3/4, 2 or 3 inch springs, flat top, flat bottom, any of that. So you had to run something like this in order not to get that point sting. So I'm excited to get these all put together, and I just wanted to cut into the video here and show you that these did come in. I've waited a few days to edit this video to where I could show you basically what I've got here. So yeah, that failed, and I guess now we'll just do a bungee straight across there and another bungee straight across here to keep that locked in. Another thing, I'm going to 3-inch exhaust. Right now we are stuck with 2 1/4, and I believe that this 2 1/4 that we have in here, you can see how it goes straight all the way to the front, more or less. I don't know if I can get you a clean shot, but there is a cherry bomb muffler on it already, but restricted by 2 1/4-inch exhaust. It's what we had to do at the time, and it works, it's functional, but I believe there's a hidden power in this engine that if we can breathe more air in, let more air out, she'll make more power. So that's what I'm hoping anyways. Now, probably not for this race coming up in March, but definitely if we do a summertime race. Now, anybody who looks at this, you're gonna see just a regular old air conditioning condenser. The cooling part for your air conditioner. Now, yes, this is brand new. I didn't use the original one. Reason why is just because of the age, and it already had refrigerant ran through the old one. Now what this is, anybody who's got an oil cooler on their Honda knows what this is. This is an oil filter block. So basically you thread this into where your oil filter goes, and you'll have oil come out and then oil return. And built into here right there, there's a thermostat. So it doesn't open until it gets to 180 degrees. Now what I've done up here, I've put the AN fittings up here, had them welded on, and all I have to do is get some hose made, and I have to change these out to AN6 from the 10, and basically we're just going to run a hose from here to here, and then one from here back to here, and this whole giant thing will become an oil cooler for the front of the car. Now, because this is from an Acura CL, they don't ding you points. Now, if you were to go out and buy a complete oil filter or an oil cooler kit, they're going to ding you points for it. So this was a stock item for the car, used as, for something, and you can actually repurpose it as far as the rules go. So we're going to turn that into an oil cooler. One day, probably not going to do it for this race. I got 6 weeks until the race, and there's a whole lot to do. I've got the spring compressors here ready for the Eibach springs whenever they do show up. And tonight, what I'm going to work on is working on this brake valve. Now, I don't know if I'm going to put it right there where the shifter is. I kind of got to get a feel for it. And I really don't know where I'm going to put it yet. But I felt like I could mount it somewhere up here, somewhere down here. I don't know. I don't know if this lever was manipulated all the way up. I don't know if that's going to be impeding on the driver's elbow from when they shift if you know your elbow is going to be sitting back here, I don't know if that's going to be getting in the way. Doesn't look like much from the angle of the camera, but it does sit about 4 inches below the level of that shifter. So I don't want to impede anything, but I do want the driver to have the capability of manipulating the rear brakes. Unfortunately, we have to put 2 of these in, one for the left and one for the right. So it is what it is. Come over here, I'll show you what I've done here. Now, if you watch the other videos, I had slit all of these to where I could bend the fender out. That way we get rid of the air that gets trapped inside the fender well. So I went ahead last night with the welder and I welded that back shut, welded that seam shut, came down here, welded that seam shut, and then I grinded it, grinded all these, and then just took some white primer and primed it just to prevent it from rusting. Did the same thing over here on this side. Excuse my messy garage. You know, most guys, we always work on our cars and we leave all of our shit laying around. Ain't got no time to be cleaning the shop up if you throw all your time into your project. Did the same thing to this side. Now, about the intake, still haven't dynoed the car. The guy's computer crashed. Sorry about that, it is what it is. I'm just as frustrated with it. I really wanted to get a baseline dyno to where we could kind of understand what our gains were and where they were. I'm sure everybody would like to know that. But we have our filter there. Now our filter is sitting inside of our fender well. Now what happens if the race comes and it's raining? So I've got these sharp jagged pieces here. I need to trim these up. But what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna take a sheet of metal and go from here and then come down at an angle and then tie it into this bar down here and make kind of like a shield just for water and not really box it in too bad. But if you look, I've got that front grate now mounted. I'll show you that next. That way we can shoot some air directly to that filter, not so much into the fender well. So that's my plan. And I've got this old piece of steel here, galvanized steel, real thin, not too bad. It'll do the job, but I've already kind of measured out my template. I've just got to cut it and bend it and weld it. Come over here to the front of the car. I'll show you how the nose looks now. I don't know if anybody remembers what the nose used to look like, but I think it looks a lot better now. Granted, it ain't a show car, but I think I did a damn good job with that. Basically what I did, these are just air ducts for brake lines. And I looked in there right at the edge of the radiator, and I stopped this right at the edge of the radiator, and I did the same on that side to where you don't get you know, all this is open. We don't need to feed any more air into the nose of the car and get it trapped and slow it down. So we need to move that all off to the side. But other than that, that's kind of all I've got. Still waiting for some more parts to come in the mail. That'll be another video. Don't want to say too much about everything else that's coming in, but it's definitely going to be an upgrade. The car's definitely going to be a whole lot faster. And I'm going to go ahead and get to work on the things that I can get done tonight. Perfect 90 grand. curve it. That looks like it'll work. Damn near almost satisfied with that. Cool. Just got to wire brush this area up here so I can weld on it. And I need to wire brush this bar so I can weld on it. Try to slow my speed down to 40 and turn my heat up to 2.5. See what happens. Alright, so I finally got that piece welded in. You can see here, that's what it looks like from this side. All holy. It's just galvanized steel, real thin shit. It's hard welding thin metal, I'll tell you what. Now these are all just a bunch of little spot welds. I'm not an expert welder, but shit will not come off there, that's for sure. I got a little pot welds right there, one in the corner there. I tried to get in there, but it just ain't happening. As you can see, I got it all welded up there. So all it is a shield. It's curved, it'll do the job. I'll let it cool down before I put the filter in there. So I got everything done on the air filter part of the car. Now I was working on the brake bias, and this is what I came up with. Basically a piece of steel. It's going to get welded to the car just like that, and with the holes that are in it, we're basically going to line them up, and they're going to sit flush with the top of it like that, and the other one is going to sit just like that. So basically they'll be like that, and the bottom will be welded. And then I have to stop because I don't have the Allens that go through here. So I got to get the Allens that will go through there, and from there it's pretty much cut and dry. So I'm gonna go to the store tomorrow, get those the right Allen bolts that go through there with the nuts that go on the back. I'll weld it to it, and then I can start the plumbing process. So thank y'all for watching this video. Stay tuned for more. See you later.